Aces to another X-Wing Battle Report. I'm Brian.
And I'm Ethan. Today we have John with Zeta Leader, Wired, Ion Engine Mark II, and a Lambda Omicron Squadron pilot with Darth, Vader, 2 Academy pilots, and an Epsilon Squadron pilot, or 2 Epsilon Squadron pilots.
And I'm flying Scum list, Serissu with Stealth Device, the title, Flechette Cannon, and Push the Limit. Talonbane Cobra with Predator and Glitterstims. 1 Binayre Pilot with Inertial Dampeners, and then 2 other Binayre pilots.
This is a request list.
Yeah, an interesting request list from one of the comments that we received. It's kind of a neat matchup. I like it, kind of a little bit of a swarm-on-swarm going.
It definitely shows the kind of versatility you can see out of the Imperial side. We have, the traditional TIE fighters and then the new FOs coming in for a mixed squadron. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and one of my first times flying the Scum Interceptor. I really like Serissu. I haven't really found a good place for her yet in the Scum list, but I really enjoyed flying this list, though. It was kind of neat. I liked it with the Flechette Cannon. There's a lot of tricksy things that you can pull off with it, especially on those TIEs that are looking to do their obvious K-turns and sloops as well. You can really throw a muck into things.
Yeah, I think it's an underused upgrade. I think most people were disappointed that it doesn't give a stress regardless of whether or not the receiving ship has a stress, but it would have been broken if that had been true.
Yeah, and it's a cheap enough upgrade too. You see John's got a kind of a weird formation that he's pulling with his ties over there, all drunkenly flying on his crooked flight stands.
Well, it's a standard John. He's an experimenter. He likes to try lots of different things.
He certainly does.
I think this is actually a play that I approve of. Spreading out when you're flying a swarm is an interesting and unconventional tactic, but I think it can really work if you're trying to net someone. It's something I see not utilized enough by a swarm player facing an ace list.
Yeah.
Usually they fly in formation and the aces just dance around them and kill them at their sort of pleasure, so...
No, it really threw me off guard. Going into this fight, I kind of expected it just to be like 2 swarm blocks kind of going at it. I threw Serissu flying close to those Z95s to try and get the full benefit of the defense dice reroll that she gives out. And after seeing what John's list was doing, I just decided, all right, well, I'll just fly everything straight forward and let things unravel and try to catch him off guard instead.
Well, I do think it was an interesting choice putting the Lambda, pushing it forward so fast. That's definitely not the typical move you would see from a Lambda. I think John was trying to be really aggressive with it, which I'm not quite sure if I agree with that decision.
Yeah, I think he wanted to try to get as much use out of Darth Vader as possible there, but I think holding the Lambda back in reserve and having the Lambda swoop in and using Darth Vader just to pull off the final hits on anything that's wounded and kind of straggling.
And here we see what I think is the best use for Talonbane Cobra. I think he's a great ace. I think a lot of people really dislike him because they charge him forward, they get that 5 attack first, initial attack, and then he dies because of course he's a giant threat. But people forget about that other half of his ability. That's, a lot of dice to be rolling at range 3. So I really think he had a tough choice in either shooting closer range to Serissu, who has tons and tons of defense dice, or shooting far away at Talonbane, who has tons and tons of defense dice. I like Talon playing a little more conservatively.
Yeah, and you saw with Talonbane there, I decided to go with the target lock for him. I know he's got Predator for rerolls, but once he's probably going to get in range 1 with that Lambda, and I wanted to get as much damage in as possible, and I assumed that John was going to go for Serissu just to try and get that stealth device off of there, and Vader could easily take her out in 1 shooting attack. So Cobra was pretty solid sitting back there with all of his defense dice, and getting a target lock just to have up to 3 or more dice to reroll when he gets into range 1. I think it was a better option than taking what obviously would have been just a just a failed focus anyway.
This is another interesting choice on the part of John, and an unfortunate asteroid placement. I don't think I would have barrel rolled that shaky cam, that ship right further away. I think it would have barrel rolled it perhaps in for so that I would have gotten a closer range shot. As it is, it takes it out, and it actually decreases the amount of arc that the ship gets. So
yeah.
But this is a very nice play by John right here. That one forward doesn't land on an asteroid. It manages to take an action, and it's right in the middle of everything. This is a great place for this this Lambda to be.
Yeah, no, there's just a giant cow right in the way.
It's just unfortunate that two of John's ships are bumped. I think they're actually both on the asteroid, so even more unfortunate. I like that you, I think sometimes people feel like they need to PTL every turn, but here we see Serissu not doing that. I mean, that's, opens up her dial, obviously, but still, you know, a lot of people feel like they need to PTL every single turn just to get the card's worth out of it, but...
Yeah.
Here's the pretty awesome shot from Talonbane, 5 hits. Pretty nice.
Oh yeah, didn't get a chance to use that target lock, but hey, I'll take 5.
Poor you didn't get to use your target lock.
I know, I was so sad. I was so sad. Sometimes my dice just want to hit all the time. I don't know what's wrong with them.
Yes, they should be censored. Some sort of long-range sparring going on. The TIE is unable to shoot. Those that are going to take some long-range shots at Talonbane, probably.
Z-95's epically failing to do anything to a Lambda through an asteroid.
That is probably the more shameful moment in a Z-95's life. You know, normally they're stuck shooting at interceptors or even things with lots of agility. At least here's Space Cow floating along.
Hitting the broadside of a barn isn't as easy as it looks.
Apparently. Well, my dice certainly agree. Dice is probably the most unfortunate thing to talk about on any X-Wing sort of subject. Is it's very difficult to talk about when the dice fail you, when they don't fail you, you know. It's hard to assess accurately.
Well, when a range 3 TIE fighter takes out a stealth device on Serissu, it kind of makes me sad.
At the same time, range 1, 5 hits from Talonbane. Sort of countering each other.
Instant karma?
I'm not sure the Lambda would agree was entirely equivalent.
It's a Lambda, nobody cares what it thinks. And here we got the swarm moving up.
Sadly, another bump.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what John was planning there.
I think he forgot to try to barrel roll there.
At one turn.
An interesting cut up there.
This was
lining up for next turn.
This is a nice, smooth maneuver, very close to the asteroid, but he made it. Gets an action. He's in a perfect position to get a lot of shots off.
And with that 0 stop maneuver, he's in a good position to make Talonbane bump right there. I half expected John to kind of push through that asteroid to really go after the swarm a little bit more. So I attempted to pull off a big K-turn with Talonbane just to throw him in the muck of things, and I figured it wouldn't be the worst if he bumped that Lambda. He probably wouldn't be in too bad of a situation.
Well, certainly your maneuvers are kind of limited here. I think you might have been able to pull off a one bank to the Talonbane's right, but
yeah.
May well
He was either going to be completely out of position or bumping a Lambda, so bumping a Lambda with a stress, it's not the worst thing. He's got some pretty good greens. Unfortunately, I did completely forget about the Glitterstims, which this would have been the turn for it. Unfortunately, Cobra's going to be taking all those TIE fighters.
Well, fortunately, really only 3 of them can shoot, and only 2 of them have modifications available. The other one's blanked out, so that's useful. And a dead Lambda, turn 2.
Z95 is finally doing work.
Seeing the 2, low-cost sort of spam ships duking it out, you really see the answer to the question of which is more valuable, more agility or more shields.
Yeah.
Sadly, John's dice are not going the way he wants them to.
It's been a long time since I've flown Z95s. I really forgot how durable they can be.
They're solid little ships.
Here's the turn where I split the fleet up.
I think that's the hardest moment for any formation fire is when does the formation break apart, because it is going to happen at some point in the game. It's important to figure out where. I think this was a great position. Being able to pull off that one bank was pretty awesome.
Yep. Getting the lead Z95 out of the way, get those one banks in there, muck up those ties a little bit.
I think this TIE fighter is just not having a great day.
He's pumped every turn. 2 sloop from those FOs.
I really love the FO dial. I think it's such a great addition to the Imperial arsenal. It makes it very different from the TIE and how it flies.
Yeah, I love it. And the 2 green turn is just huge.
Well, it turns them into a mini interceptor in terms of dial.
Yeah.
Just great.
Serissu doing her 1 turn. Looking to get into the fight finally.
I really love the dial for the M3 Interceptor. I think it's a great dial. I really like the ship. It's just a little too delicate for a disposable ship that you want to put upgrades on.
Too much glass, not enough cannon.
A little bit, yeah. But hopefully we'll receive some kind of fix from FFG.
Hopefully. And here we got a big 2 bank. Hopefully Cobra can pull it off. It's going to be huge, clearing that stress and evading all of those ties.
I think this is a big moment for you. Talon having a whole turn to collect himself and kind of get back into the fight is huge. Bumping here would have been devastating.
Oh yeah.
Even if you'd used Glitterstim the earlier turn, now you'd be bumped without it.
Yeah.
It's not a great position for him to be in. He takes a shot, and I think he's
Punching a couple through on that other FO.
Serissu with Flechette cannon.
Yeah. John's got an obvious 2 sloop next turn, so I decided to go for the other FO, try to throw a stress on him with that Flechette cannon. and it's perfect, taking away his extra evade die for that.
Slight
for that range 3
about ships.
And John completely throwing himself off guard that TIE fighters actually have shields.
It's a very surprising asset to have if you're used to flying regular TIEs. Suddenly you're flying FOs, and they have that shield. A number of times I've flown FOs, had 3 damage done against me, and I've been like, oh, my ship's dead.
Oh yeah, all the time I grab my my Imperial tokens, and I don't have shield tokens with them. I got to go digging through the rest of my stuff to find my shields. Trying to pick the best range 1 shots for just a horde of bumping.
I think what I like most about this this game is actually the lack of bumping. Like, apart from some misdialing, maybe some mismaneuvers, there hasn't been a lot of intentional blocking, which is a part of the game. I sort of accept it, but for me, it's the most uncinematic moment.
Yeah.
When someone just puts their ship right in front of you and is like, "Guess who's not taking actions this turn?"
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that in a game, and what's more, here we have 2 of the premier blocking units in the game, and it isn't.
Yeah, you get a lot of ships on the board. You kind of expect it to be a bigger train wreck, but
Well, and it's not like anyone's misplaying either by not
Yeah.
taking that deliberate blocking action. So I'm pretty excited about it.
obvious K-turn.
It's the unfortunate thing about the Bandits, they have a somewhat predictable dial.
Yep. And it's nice for the those Binayres being able to outslow the ties a little bit, which can be really huge.
Yeah, 1 forward is a surprisingly ubiquitous maneuver.
Yeah.
It's surprising how much you miss it. And another tragic bomb.
Sometimes you try to close the gap a little bit too hard and you end up ramming.
Well, it's unfortunately just part of the game. As you can imagine, that TIE fighter pilot is pretty frustrated right now.
Every turn.
Seriously, coming back into the fight. Remember me?
Yeah.
I'm relevant.
Down to 1 hull, but hey, still sporting that Flechette cannon. Throw some stress on something.
Or, a range 1 shot. Hits 3 dice. Not
Yeah,
bad.
it's not bad. I had to make a real tough call there between shooting range 1 or shooting a Flechette cannon at Zeta leader, trying to take away his ability to roll an extra attack die.
That's a tough call. I think removing ships is probably the better.
Yeah, Zeta really only has a shot at that other Z95, and I'm not too concerned with him at this point.
I think this is probably the longest the Talonbane's ever lived in a game. Should be some kind of achievement for finishing the game with Talonbane still alive.
go for the guy without tokens. It just kind of sucks having to spread as much damage out as... Especially when you're fighting a swarm, you really want to try to focus as much as you can, and John did a really good job of fanning his guys out, and I wasn't able to focus fire as much as I would have liked to.
It is, I think, the key to a successful anti-swarm list, but when you're fighting swarm v swarm, I think it's a little more forgivable to kind of spread your fire out, trying to go a little bit more man-to-man. Certainly that's I think the most interesting sort of counter is Ace v Ace has a very sort of like fluid kind of dynamic towards strategies on how you defeat each other, but when it comes to swarm versus swarm, there's kind of a very like rigid formula, I think, and I think that's why some of the maneuvers we see here might be very successful for swarm players to use against other swarm players, is they're not the standard expected strategy, so that's I think that's useful.
Yeah. That 3 bank on Zeta clearing stress.
Those twin ion engine Mark IIs, I think that's a great upgrade. I think it really opens up a lot of ship styles. The FO doesn't benefit the most, but it certainly benefits. And the TIE Advanced and the Defender certainly gain a lot of mileage out of having that upgrade.
Yep. Just got some of the spoils out for the new Imperial Aces. I can't wait for that expansion to come out. Can't wait to get my Defenders on the board again. I really miss them. I love that ship so much.
Well, I'll be looking forward to that video in 2021 if the G's release schedule continues as it is. This bump here from Talonbane, I think this actually ended up working better for you. Just being able to clear that stress, not taking any damage, not taking any return fire.
I wasn't expecting the big 3 bang.
We see a crit clearing off a TIE for you early on. That's pretty nice. And another TIE goes down.
Serissu doing work.
Definitely think the M3s are an underutilized ship. It's just hard to find a good position for them in a fleet.
Yeah. There's enough tricky things that you can take in a competitive list that just removes the ship. Like the Interceptor. I think competitively there's just not enough there.
Well, certainly someone like Wampa getting a ship, getting damaged through the bottom of the shields, or Vader.
Yeah.
The possibility of double damage just completely erasing a ship. Especially since an upgraded Interceptor is likely to cost, up to 20 or so, mid-20s points.
Yeah.
Which is a lot to be paying for a ship that can be removed fairly easily.
Yep. That barrel roll.
It's a really useful action.
I love it on ships that push the limit.
Well, being able to sort of change your position and also take some dice modification is really useful.
Opting for the target lock there to try and remove that tie. And there he is. And with just the Zeta leader out on the board, I think John's just going to call it here.
He was going to take out Talon first, I think.
Oh yeah, lucky crit. Well guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video. We'll try and get some more X-Wing videos out there. If you guys got a suggestion, be sure to post it in the comments below, and thanks for watching.